Well, good morning, or not. I shouldn't say morning. People aren't always listening to this in the morning, but.
Well, I mean, when are you going to release these? At night? I mean,
No,
I doubt it.
we'll release them in the morning, but they might not listen to them in the morning.
Hey, y'all.
Howdy. Just like that.
Just like that.
Welcome to 7 Points, a podcast produced by the Arizona Department of Public Safety, where we talk to different individuals who make our department so great. Whether a state trooper or civilian support staff, every employee has a unique story and path they took to get here. 7 Points asks guests 7 specific questions to give listeners insight into what it means to work here and to be a part of the law enforcement family.
Well, welcome to another episode of 7 Points with the Arizona Department of Public Safety. I am Sergeant Andrews, one of your hosts, and my co-host, Detective Sherrod Harris, joining us today. Today, we have a very, very special guest. She has been with DPS for 11 years. Oh, you know what? I didn't bring up my notes. She's been here 11 years.
Failure.
Her favorite food is popcorn, mashed potatoes, or tacos.
That's quite a mix, actually.
Take your pick.
What
Like
kind
all
of
at the same
tacos, though?
time, or?
Any kind of possibly, yeah.
I mean, I'm down.
I'm the person that'll go to Harkins just to buy the big party popcorn.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen a movie in years.
I do like Harkins popcorn, though.
Her favorite movie on the subject of movies is Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
Which one? The original?
The original.
Oh, okay.
Do you like the new one?
It's okay.
It's kind of Star Wars just with Top Gun theme, the story. When you
True.
really think about it, we'll talk about that later. But
You just nerded out on me, and I don't know about that.
her favorite sport to watch, Supercross, that's interesting. That not many people say that.
I like
or
Supercross.
rodeo.
Yeah.
That's like the brr, brr, brr motorcycles,
It's
right?
brap.
Braps. Okay. I'm sorry.
This is going bad for you, Eric. I'm just going to say that.
And her favorite thing to do or her favorite hobby, fish or go to the river. I know go to the river because we're Facebook friends and
Yeah.
you're there like every weekend.
Yeah, I was there this weekend.
You guys have one of those like ridiculously loud boats, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures and I'm like, oh, those are those loud ones that all the rest of us hate on whether the river or the lake.
It's
or like,
cool.
I mean, it's cool, but it's loud.
I like it.
It's a twin turbo, so
I mean, there's flexes.
it's
And
not
then
a
there's flexes.
Bayliner
That's true. I mean, I don't have any
Fast
boat, so it's
tractor.
cooler than me.
or a
Bayliner.
Lund.
Party barge.
But our guest is Operational Communications Center Manager,
Oh, shoot.
Jill Swanson.
Hello.
That
Welcome.
sounds big time,
Thank
by the
you.
way. That's a big time
Sound,
position.
Yeah.
You run some people, huh?
I mean, I help run some people.
Our dispatchers are pretty good, aren't they?
They're more than good.
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't get to talk to them very
I know,
often
because
anymore.
you're a detective and you forgot how to use a radio. So,
That's true. I call in more than I get on the radio.
yeah. Okay. I'll tone it down.
Mine is always, hey, 1052 me to this district, and that's it.
If that. I usually forget what district I'm in.
Oh,
Now.
where are we right now?
Central?
There you go.
So you're the Phoenix Center Manager, correct?
Correct.
And we've got 2 centers for the
Yes.
state. We've got Phoenix and Tucson.
Correct.
So you are one of the 2 managers that our agency has.
Yep.
And we used to have Flagstaff, but we don't have Flagstaff anymore,
No.
correct? Okay.
It's been a while.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So as, we talked beforehand and I introduced you to the show and asked you to come on the show and you begrudgingly agreed to it and are regretting that decision now, but we're happy you're here. We explained that we've got these 7 questions we ask all of our guests to learn more about you personally, but also to learn more about the agency, learn more about the different positions in the agency that both civilians and sworn can take part in. So we thought it was important that we talk to some civilians as well, dispatchers, because they're very important. They're a big part of what we do here. So first, where did you grow up? Tell us about life before DPS.
There is no life before DPS.
Great answer. Great answer.
I was originally born in Minnesota.
Oh, boy.
I moved here when I was 8, and I grew up in Nogales. Lived there until I was about 20. Somehow I ended up here in Phoenix.
That is quite the change. The land of 1,000 lakes or whatever.
10,000.
10,000. See? I knew she'd catch that. to Nogales. How was that?
It was actually fun.
Really?
Yeah, growing up on the border was. I mean, I wouldn't do it now.
Yeah.
It would be really scary, but that's just me. I mean, we would walk across the line to go eat by ourselves.
That's awesome.
Can't do that now.
No.
But
Well,
it's just the culture and everything down there. It's still a small town feel. So I loved it.
that's awesome.
And it's still a pretty small town now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you go down there much? Do you have family still down there or anything?
No, well, my son's grandma lives down there still, and my mom lives in Green Valley, but that's about as far south as I go.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I am fluent, yes.
Oh, very nice.
Reading, writing, speaking.
Dang, that's
Do you know
awesome.
how many
actually.
times I get troopers, hey, can you translate this for me quick? No. I don't want to go to court.
You know, I mean, that's a valid point. I've known you for like 10 years now. I didn't
I
even
had
know that.
no idea.
That's the whole thing.
That's part of the
keep
success.
that
Now
secret.
everyone's going to know.
Yeah.
Everybody in the agency knows.
We're blasting this out.
Hey, everybody, if you need a communication specialist, Phoenix Opcom manager, just putting it out there. So, so why did you want to come to DPS? What led you to the dispatcher, what we call Opcom? What led you to that role?
So I originally began my dispatch law enforcement career with Santa Cruz County down in Nogales. That was in 2001. So that was 23 years ago.
Wow.
I don't know how that's possible. I'm only 29, but whatever. And I started there. I worked there for 3 years, small county, dispatch for fire, meds, and the deputies. And from there, I went to Southwest Ambulance Rural Metro for a year in Tucson. And I always the fact that you can come into work and you never know what's going to happen is what drew me to it. And you always get those calls where it makes you feel like what you do matters. I mean, you get people that yell at you all the time, call you names. That's what people don't understand. Like the dispatchers and call takers, they get yelled at a lot. But you just have to realize that they're not calling you to say hi. It's their worst day ever, right?
Right.
And it's always like they yell at us and then the troopers go on scene and they're nice as pie. So it's just something that you have to be a certain person to handle it, just to let it roll off your back. So I did that for about 4 years, and then I left, actually. I worked in the trauma ICU at UMC in Tucson as a patient care tech. And I was there when Gabby Giffords got shot, so helped take care of all those people. And I didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to be a nurse, but I didn't want to do that anymore. So I got back I moved up to Phoenix, and I worked for Scottsdale Healthcare for a doctor's office for about a year, waiting to get hired here. And then I got hired here.
Sweet.
So what does a patient care tech even do? Like, I've never heard that. I've heard that position before.
I mean,
Kind of everything?
yeah. Especially in a trauma ICU, you help the nurses. The nurses either have one or two patients. Sometimes one patient has 3 nurses if they're really, really bad. But a patient care tech, we draw blood, or we used to. A phlebotomist assisting with daily needs, wound care, anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
EKGs,
Gotcha.
cleaning up after people.
All the fun stuff
Yes.
is what you're saying.
Well, they're all on ventilators, so
Yeah.
they can't get out of bed.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
So when you decided to come back to dispatching, what drew you to DPS?
When I started dispatching for Santa Cruz County, DPS was the best, right? It's the pinnacle. That's where you want to go. And coming from a small town, that's what you wanted to do, work for the state and work for DPS. And when I started here, I think we were fully staffed when I started here, which I don't think we've been fully staffed for a long time. We're getting there, but it was something, it just, and as cliche as this sounds, everyone's going to listen to this and be like, man, it was like a family feel, right? You start, I've met friends who be friends for my whole life. And yes, it is like a family. You argue like families.
Very dysfunctional. No, I'm just
Yeah. Well, I was going to say that, but I didn't think I could. So. But yeah, I mean, this is where I wanted to be.
Awesome. Well, and to lighten that statement a little bit, What family is not dysfunctional in some way?
I don't think that the Waltons.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? So, but to your point, I've had the same experience as far as feeling like it's a family, because you have guys that you fight with your brother every day, same guy. You have guys that you love going to work with, and it's a good mixed bag, if you will.
I have a couple people who are the most annoying little brother I never had. I won't say their
Why are you
names.
looking right at me?
No, it's not you. It's not you. But yeah.
So now that you are at DPS and you've been here for 11 years, kind of walk us through your career progression here so far.
So I started, my title was Police Communications Dispatcher, but you start training and call taking, so you learn to answer the 911s and answer the administrative lines, help the public, help the troopers when they need something that the dispatcher doesn't need to help them with, right? So I started with that, and then I moved into radio, and I trained on the busiest radio for my first radio on swings, which was Central. I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess, but I love that. I would rather be busy.
Yeah.
Once I was able to, I became a trainer and started training what do you guys call it, like FTO?
Yeah, field training.
We have the technical term is CTO, Communications Training Officer. It's just a certification that you have to get. So I became a trainer, and then eventually in 2019, I became a supervisor. I was a supervisor for a little over 3 years, and then I became the center manager.
So there's room. If a lot of people think of promoting when you're sworn at a law enforcement agency that I'm going to be a trooper, I'm going to go to sergeant, captain, major, lieutenant colonel, whatever. Yeah. But there's still room to promote on the civilian side as a dispatcher. You can start at the very bottom, and now you've promoted twice now, right?
Yes.
So you're at what is the equivalent of a captain
Correct.
for the sworn side, but on the civilian side.
Correct.
So, and you manage the entire center. So you're overseeing the supervisors of each shift. You're overseeing the those brand new call takers. You're a part of all that stuff. You're overseeing the trainers, everybody, correct?
Correct. Well, my only direct reports are the supervisors.
Right.
But yes, over everybody.
And how is that? How you obviously know on the sworn side of the house, and I know you're close with at least one sworn person. But you're friends with quite a few of us.
Yeah.
How have you seen the difference between the civilian side of DPS and the sworn side of DPS? Or how would you categorize that, I guess you could say?
The difference?
Yeah.
God, I knew you were going to ask something.
Put you on the spot.
I don't really think, I think there are a certain few of you, right, sworn, that understand how important, say, dispatch is for you. Neither one of us could do our job. I can't see you.
I know, it's kind of weird.
Sorry. Neither one of us could do our job without each other, right?
Yeah,
and people
absolutely.
don't realize that. And I think like I said, there are some of you that get that, but there's some that don't. They don't understand. It's just you're working central on swings, and the dispatcher has 50 people on their board, and yet there's one guy that's, where's my tow truck? Where's my tow? Do you not hear everything else that's going on? Mm-hmm. So and when I started, it used to be, I think it was an advanced basic at some point. Everyone had to come into dispatch and actually do a sit-along.
Yeah, we were talking about that before you came in. I remember that.
Yeah.
I did one, so.
Yeah.
But I will say the one thing that they love is looking at the ADOT cameras. That's like a shiny object. But a lot of them take a lot away from that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that starting in dispatch is a good way to get your foot in the door, to understand how things operate and how things go on the road. And I mean, there's differences. Obviously, highway patrol is the bread and butter of the department. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, everyone sees highway patrol.
Well, that is the job, basically.
Correct.
I mean, that's what we're here for.
Right.
But you have all the support staff on the back end that don't get nearly as much recognition for what they do. And I think that's the difference, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. No, and I think it's hard to find that balance sometimes. And I like to think I understand what you guys do and appreciate what you guys do. I think it gets, I mean, we both know how crazy it gets. I mean, obviously you guys know how crazy it gets out there, sometimes going call to call to call, and you guys are getting on the radio saying, hey, we got this pending, or we got this holding here. Can somebody please clear? And we're like, oh crap, I gotta go.
Let me shut off my GPS so you can't see me.
I've never.
Okay. Whatever.
I have never done that.
I didn't even know
I
you can
could.
honestly say that.
But wasn't that it was like a puck on the back of your car where you could put a piece of paper in between it or something like that's what someone told me. I don't know.
Maybe we're too young for that.
Maybe I'm just trying to do my job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we don't shy away from working.
I'm like,
so.
who turns off their GPS? I've never heard of that.
Well, now we do direct dispatching.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Which, how do you feel about that? I've been dying to ask a dispatcher
I
how
think
they
it's a
feel
good
about it.
it's a good thing. I mean, there's people that will absolutely refuse to oops, my radio wasn't on. I didn't hear you. But I think it's a good thing because it spreads everybody out to where they need to go, and you can pick, the dispatcher can actually pick, who's closer and send them there. Like when I worked for Southwest Ambulance and Rural Metro, it was a constant game of chess, moving ambulances all around Tucson. It was in Tucson where I worked. And I love doing that. And it keeps you busy, and it's not because it's the control thing, but you're actually trying to get someone help sooner.
Right.
But I think it's a great idea. And more often than not, people are like, yep, I'll go, hold it for me.
Yeah.
There are a few people, that just choose not to agree with it or don't want to do anything with it or just stay on one certain end of a district because they don't want to go somewhere else. But those are few and far between.
And for our viewers and listeners, DPS, what was it, like 2 years ago we made this transition?
Yeah.
About 2 years ago we made the transition where before, if there was a call on CAD or that dispatch had to put out, they would just put it out, and anybody, usually you knew if you were the closest or if you were one of the closest, you would just answer up for it and you would go to the call. Now they're actually looking at the map and saying, okay, this unit is the closest to this incident. I'm going to call them out specifically on the radio, tell them, hey, I need you to go here if they're available, if they're what we call in the green, because on the CAD screen, when you're in available status, you're in a green color. So that's what we transitioned to, which was a big transition because we hadn't ever done that. So I know when I was on the road. I
still haven't worked that system. So
yeah, and it was, I've never worked the road with that either. And I know when I was on the road, we would, if you thought you might be closest, because we didn't even have GPS back when we started, we couldn't see where each other were. So we would just answer up for it. And then if you were on a good squad, you'd have that guy. It's like, oh, hey, I'm way closer. I'm going to take that for you. Okay, great. Sounds good. Or I'll still come. I'll just back you up. But now, we're doing that directed dispatch. I think I was in HP when they switched to that. And I know a lot of people were freaking out about, oh, no, how's this going to work? But I'm like, every other agency works like that. That's the standard to get people, like you're saying, the help and the care that they need as soon as possible. So it's fantastic, I think.
And, I mean, we don't have a beat system, but,
Yeah, because like you said, I mean, guys can stay wherever they want in the entire district. And in Metro, our districts are not that, or they're comparatively to the rest of the state, they're small, but really they're way bigger than a beat would be in a city anywhere. So they're huge.
Well, and when I started, Metro East and Metro South was one giant district.
Right.
We called it East the Beast because it was huge, and now it's cut in half, and South is just really busy. Everyone's busy. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah, because I remember when I started, we could go 101 Scottsdale, all the way up there, all the way up there. But then my district didn't end until, still the West Stack at I-10 and 99th Avenue. And it's not quite that big, but that's huge.
Yeah.
I vividly remember, because I work graveyards, my shift started at 7. I'd get called out, which was funny because they'd call me 15 minutes before my start time. I'm like, okay. But I would run code for 45 minutes, code 3, light sirens, for 45 minutes just to get to a wreck from my house because it was busy. And I'm in Metro East, and I'm just, okay, here we go.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. And then, again, these are the smallest districts for us in the state, whereas other places you can be going code for over an hour and still not be there. So,
and they depend on, like, the county or other law enforcement agencies out in the rural areas. And so, I think Metro gets a little they're so used to having backup so close to them. And I think that they don't understand. Well, maybe some people do, because they come from rural into metro, and then they're like, oh my God, what are all these cars? That's going to be my funny story. So we'll talk about that later.
It is a different culture.
It is.
For sure.
It's just
Outside
call to
and
call to
inside.
call to call. When in rural, you can just sit there and run traffic all the time and wait for a call to come out. But when it does, it blows up.
Yeah.
So,
Transitioning a little bit, what would you say is the biggest hurdle for new dispatchers?
understanding what the job is like. They can Google what it's like or watch Halle Berry on the call.
Right.
We don't go out and chase kidnappers.
What?
No, I mean,
Oh.
sometimes
It'd
we
be
do.
fun, though.
Oh, well. Yeah. I just think that they don't understand how difficult it's going to be and all the emotions that are involved and how you have to go from taking a phone call for a fatality collision to just taking an admin call. Hey, can you tell me where my car is? Right. So they don't understand that. And then once they get into it, it's not everyone, like I said, not everyone can do it.
Yeah.
And we do bring people on board that don't last very long. If they just stick it out and understand and have to have the right mindset. And they don't, the shift work, they don't get it either, because they'll start off on day shift to do their call taking training, because that's when you get the most calls, right?
Right.
You don't really get, you can get wrong ways at night, but there still is calls. But then when they have to go to like swing shift, the 14 to 22, they're like,
That's a
nobody
rough
told
one.
me that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we did. So it's just it takes a certain person to
Yeah.
be a dispatcher, and some people just don't know until they come in, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. To me, it sounds, and I know I would struggle doing it, but it sounds like it's the ultimate customer service job, because to your point, you're going to get somebody who is legitimately having a very, 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 very bad experience, either a fatal collision, family member, whoever, whatever that is. That's, everybody can agree that's about as horrible as it gets.
Yep.
And then you'll get somebody that feels like they're having just as bad an experience because they got a flat tire.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to manage your response to that on every single call. That's not an easy thing to do. I mean, we see it out on the road, but it's different,
Yeah.
because we just get there and start solving problems or whatever, trying
Yeah.
our best to solve it. That's a problem I would have with it. I would have a problem taking the phone call and then just knowing I just got to sit there
Yeah.
and have somebody else go handle it. That would drive me crazy.
And a lot of times the dispatchers don't get, I don't want to call it closure, but we really don't know what happens in the end,
Yeah.
right? You just have to keep going on to the next call. And it's a tough job to do. I mean, it's tough.
But important.
Yes.
I know when like we were on the road and you get your first pursuit, you get that first, felony stop arrest of whatever it is, we're all pumped up. We're getting, we're like, oh man, that was awesome. That was so much fun. Are there moments like that for dispatchers where they manage their first pursuit, where they, manage their first, whether it's a shooting or some big call? I mean, I would assume that they have those moments. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. That was so much fun.
And that's the thing, like I said, I trained on Central, right? 480 hours is your first radio that you train on it. Never got a pursuit. The minute I'm released on my own, you get a pursuit. It never fails. And then you just think like, oh my God, did I do everything right? But yeah, I mean, everyone gets all pumped up about pursuits and stuff like that. And not everyone has worked a shooting. People handle it differently, right? I mean, my first and only shooting that I worked, it didn't turn out good for the other person. But I just had to go right back in and work the radio again. So that's what people don't see. The mental health of dispatchers, I was going to say a bad word, is...
We have a beeper.
It's very... It's very important, and people don't understand that. So, yeah. And it's just a roller coaster of emotions throughout the day.
And do you think that's shifted more lately? I know on the sworn side, I feel like it shifted, that the mental health aspect is definitely being focused on in general law enforcement, but as well as with our own agency. Do you think, I mean, I know you guys have like your, I don't know, it's called a therapy dog or whatever he's called down there. That oh, I'm sorry, she.
Maui is a girl.
I'm sorry, I was unaware.
She likes to take naps.
Do your homework, Eric.
I know, seriously. I failed that one.
I mean, she's helped tremendously. People will come in and she likes to nap in her bed, right? And they're like, is that all she does? But when something happens, she'll come up to you and she'll just sit here and she'll paw you and she's there. It works wonders. She works wonders.
That's awesome.
But it is great that the mental health aspect of it is coming into play where people can see the effects on someone just because you don't see what's happening. I mean, you guys on the road, I can't imagine showing up to body parts in the road, right? Or whatever the call may be. But to have to listen to those people scream and then not know what's going on, it's tough.
Yeah.
So,
And to your point, the lack of closure, again, I know that would affect me. That's the beauty of it, but that's the benefit that we had as troopers is we get to see it through.
yeah.
And know that, okay, we packaged this up however we packaged it up and sent it on its way, and then we get to deal with it however we deal with it. My thing to the mental health thing, and I'm a huge proponent of it because I've dealt with my own stuff and critical incidents, we'll just call them that, affect people, everybody. And my message, I guess, to other troopers, to other people that want to be police officers, it's okay.
Yeah.
To have an emotional reaction to these things because they are emotional things. These are literally the worst events that can possibly happen in someone's life and in your life, for that matter. So it's okay to have these reactions. You're not broken. You're not messed up. You're not weak. You're not all this other stuff. But you probably need to take some steps to work yourself out and get it straightened out.
And not only, to add on that, not only is it okay, it's healthy. Like, it's a good thing. Like,
you
if
should
you're
be reacting.
if you're not having that reaction, that's when your squad mates and your supervisor, your sergeant, whoever, should be saying, are you okay? Like, what's going on
that
here?
didn't affect you at all.
Yeah.
That's odd. So,
And that was, I mean, before, like when I started, and I can only imagine for you guys out on the road, all you guys, yes, I know there's females out there, but it's like, nope, you can't, you just have to be stoic, right? You can't show any emotion. You can't say, oh, well, this messed me up. You can't do any of that because that for the fear of someone saying something to you, right? And I think that it's evolved to something where it's a good thing, like you said, and to seek help if you're having issues or for anything, really.
Oh, I think even just in our decade of being in this, it's absolutely
Yeah.
changed from that of like, no, you don't say anything, you push it all down, to now, no, like if I need to go, release something in the car, just cry, whether it's crying or just scream real quick or whatever, I can go do that in my car and be good. My sergeant can say, hey, go take a break, go walk it off, like you're fine. And a good sergeant, a good supervisor is going to do that. Even if they're not necessarily seeing somebody do that, they're going to, hey, let's debrief. And I think that's what is important with a lot of the debriefs that we do now. And I don't know if you guys do those the same way as we do, but just taking that moment to kind of go over everything, take a break, breathe a little bit, and then talk about it. And everybody just talks about it. So,
well, when I worked my critical incident, we were invited, and I think that's when OPCOM started to get invited to these debriefs. And talk about it's not closure, but at least you hear what happened on scene. And this was with another. It was out with another agency, so we went to that department. But that was awesome to hear because everyone opens up. At least the one that I went to, and people aren't afraid to talk, and you can ask questions, and nothing leaves the room. So I think that it's to include dispatch in something like that is a change that was necessary, and it has turned over a new leaf, so to speak, to include dispatch and that side of it, and I think it's great.
well, and I think it's, again, having been in a critical incident, my relationship with my dispatcher that day will never change.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because you just know that the one person that heard you was that person. Now, there was a bunch of, it was in Metro, so it's not like nobody was there. I wasn't by myself at all. But that's the person that responded to my voice when I said that. And so, to our point, that has to be involved because she's knowing that I'm talking to her in that moment. And in that moment's about as close as we tough type A cops get to being like, help, you know what I mean, as it ever gets. So bringing her to that, and to your point, those debriefings are super important because you got to realize that everybody there felt something about it.
Yeah.
And hopefully everybody there says what they felt about it.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, oh, okay. I mean, that's what I felt. So that's not weird.
And dispatchers are trained to, not trained, it's just something that evolves, I guess. If your voice changes or you talk differently from how you always do, because they know your voice, they know what you're going to do. They know you're going to go to Scottsdale and Mayo to Chick-fil-A every night for dinner. Had to throw that out there. You knew I had to throw that out there.
Of course.
But your dispatchers know.
Yeah.
So, and even if you're off a little bit, they'll code 20 you, or they'll start someone to you just in case. So that's the relationship between the troopers and the dispatchers needs to be cohesive, and for the most part it is. And I think that we work really well together, and we just need to keep moving forward.
And I think that goes both ways too, because I know you guys can tell when our voice changes, when we're getting amped up, when we're screaming in a pursuit, whatever the case is, as some people do. But then also I know there's been times, even myself, but you hear other guys, we haven't heard you guys say something or respond to us, and we'll say something, and we'll hear that tone on your guys' end, and we're like, ah, crap, we're about to get a call. We just messed them, or we just really annoyed you because we're like, oh, we just asked for like a fourth time, and clearly I didn't hear. And, you know, that's when you send a little message, hey, sorry, I missed that last time. And
Or my favorite is when it's a command. There's several people there, and each person has to say, the tow truck's here, tow truck's here, tow truck's here. Did anyone tell you the tow truck's here? Nope, nobody told me. Thank you.
That's awesome. Oh. So, I don't know if we've covered this or not, but what's your favorite part about DPS? Trick question.
I think, like I said, you know, you come to work, and it's never the same thing twice.
Yeah.
And I've been here 11 years, and I'll go to trainings, and there's people that have been here just as long or longer. I've never even met them. Like, I've talked to them on the phone, but our agency is so big. Like, for instance, the supervisor in service that we started last year. We're going to have another one. You go in there, and it's like, who are these people? And then you hear a voice, and you're like, oh, I know you. You're 9 whatever. And I think that it's got a small town feel to it, but we're a big agency, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, I was commenting before. I was just like, what's funny about our relationship with dispatchers is, like, I don't know if I could pick you out in a crowd. You know what I mean? If I was walking in the mall, a dispatcher could pass me, I'd have no idea. But if she called me, I'd be like, oh, yeah, I know. Yeah. Absolutely. It's crazy.
We should change that. We should have giant barbecues or something. Oh, God, now that's going to be in the suggestion.
Hey, we have a barbecue every year. Special Olympics barbecue.
Yes.
Or, well, we brought that back this year for the first time in like 4 or 5 years. But anyway. So if you weren't a dispatcher, well, now a communications center manager, what other job at DPS, because we've got so many, both sworn and civilian, what other job at DPS do you think would be the most interesting to you, or what would you like to do if you weren't a dispatcher?
An analyst.
An analyst.
Yeah. I think that'd be cool to try to hunt down stuff and help out with like ops plans and putting together search warrants and stuff. I think that'd be cool. And I think dispatchers make the best analysts because that's basically our job in a nutshell, working with very minimal information, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, and other than that, I would go back to being a dispatcher. I miss it. I'll work every once in a while, like for holidays, I'll come in and work radios so people can have time off. I'll come in on weekends when they're short. If I'm available, I come in at 2 a.m. to help work a radio. I miss it. I mean, my skills are a little rusty, but I mean, I miss it. Yeah.
It's good times. So you already kind of plugged it a little bit. But do you have we're calling it a trooper tale, but a funny story, embarrassing, anything about your time here at DPS?
I mean,
no names.
I'm not going to say names.
Oh, okay.
But dispatch is just full of them. I could give you open mic stories. I could give you like.
And for our listeners, an open mic is when somebody inadvertently, whether it's they have their hand on the microphone button or their knee, or somehow their microphone is transmitting everything they say. They don't even realize it. Like their radio's blaring and they're talking, to their wife on the phone or whatever. And everybody in the entire district is hearing everything they're saying. So, yeah.
And your dispatcher tries to save you when that happens. They hit the pedal so that it keeps. I mean, there'll be troopers that grab the wrong mic and they think they're on outside speaker trying to get someone to pull over. Oh no, you're on district. You're talking on the radio, yelling at, move up. I mean, choice words, but move over. There is one where they were looking for a Spanish speaker to assist with a traffic stop or something like that. I don't know what it was. And they couldn't find anybody. And this trooper, who's now a sergeant, it wasn't you, he goes on scene and he goes, I'm 1097 and I don't speak English. And we're like, what? You don't... We were looking for Spanish. What are you talking? And he's like, oh, I mean Spanish. Okay. But the funny story that I was going to bring up, there was someone that came from a rural area. I believe he worked in Siloam and came into Metro. And he thought it would be a good time, like right in the middle of Rush on I-17, to get in a pursuit with a motorcycle. Totally legit, right? And the only thing, asking for a description, the only thing he could say, and he'll know if he listens to this, he'll know. The only thing that he could say that he remembered about him was, I don't know, but he was wearing Nike Cortez shoes. Okay.
I mean,
that's pretty good,
guilty.
But you couldn't tell me, what color his shirt was or anything, but that's what shoes he's wearing. I mean, I have so many.
I like those kicks. It's like, man, those are nice. Why are you running from me? I just want to talk about your shoes.
Yeah. So that was shut down real quick. Like,
yeah,
you don't do that on I-17 in the middle of rush hour.
No.
I mean, troopers are going to listen to this and be like, yeah, we do. That's what we do.
At 1 o'clock in the morning, maybe. And even then, not recommended.
Yeah. Let them go.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. We talk about that all the time. The older you get, the more you're like, we'll get them next time.
Yeah. You got a plate? Yep. Okay. Then what are we doing?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I loved dispatching. And like I said, I have so many different stories. And there was something about when I was training, someone put a call in. It was my first radio when the 51 was still in Central, remember? And someone put it in and it said sawhorse. And I was like, what? So I put out the call and I said, the RP saw a horse on the 51. Oh my God. The IMs that started coming in was just left and right. There's a horse on the 50. I mean, it was like a Sunday, so you never know.
That's true. I've seen all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah, it was a sawhorse. Like what do you do?
Like a construction
Yes,
sawhorse.
there you go.
Yeah.
Didn't see a horse on the 51.
That's too bad. I got one for a turkey one time. I got super excited.
Where?
It was on the 101 at like Ray or something like that, middle of the night. Which, middle of the night, somebody says there's a turkey. You're like, there's no turkey. It was a pillow. But I was pumped. I thought it was going to be a turkey. I'm like, dude, I'm taking this turkey home, depending on the smell.
See, when I worked for Avondale, my previous agency, we got a call of a house and the neighbor calling in that there was a tiger in the house. Oh. And me and my beat partner, we're like, oh, let's go. And as we're going, we're like, wait a second, what if this is real? Like, what are we supposed to do with this? Like,
because we're the three best friends.
There ended up not being a tiger, unfortunately. So it was somebody who had ingested some substances. And was seeing some
I would have been
stuff,
pumped though if that was a tiger.
Oh, I was terrified and extremely excited all at the same time. I
would have tried to pet it.
Oh, of course you would have. God. Don't touch it. You'll break it.
Yeah. Can I pet that dog? You know what I mean? Kind of thing.
Well, Jill, thank you for being here. Thank you for coming and joining us and sharing your experiences with us. It's been a great time.
Yeah, I've had a
It
blast.
has been. If I have not given any knowledge to anyone, you need to know what your dispatchers do. So
Absolutely.
You are welcome to come up and see what we do every day because I want people to see what we do. And those dispatchers work hard. We're short, so they work as hard as they can. They're answering 911s, they're answering administrative lines, and they're working those busy radios. So they're
it's definitely a
top-notch.
difficult job. One that, like I said before, I definitely probably could not do. Definitely probably. I don't think that's how you say that. But I would not be successful at that is my guess. And most of that's because you have to talk to us
yes.
90% of the time.
Well, think of dealing with like 90
Yeah. Terrible.
each of you.
Ugh.
Not listening to radios or
Yeah.
anything.
What are you
Not
talking
knowing
about?
how to read a license plate return.
Listen.
What does this mean?
Can you confirm this is suspended? I don't know.
It says
Yes,
it's
sir. It
highlighted
says suspended
now.
at the bottom.
Bright
now
red
it's
block
highlighted.
letters. Yeah.
So yes, thank a dispatcher.
Yes.
Absolutely. No, and I agree. I think it should be part of everybody's FTO pre-academy, academy, whatever, sitting
Yeah.
with you guys for at least one shift, if not more, to see what you guys do. And whether it's a call taker, person at the console, whatever, like they should be seeing everything. Because I always think about, like you said, you're hearing somebody on their worst day, and you're hearing, when there's that massive rollover and somebody's dead, you're hearing that other person who's either discovered it or that person who was in the car that survived that's now
Yep.
reporting it. Like,
You were on the phone with
yeah.
them 1 minute and then they're gone.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had several instances like that. And what the dispatchers have to deal with on a daily basis should never be forgotten because it will affect you. But the ones that we have there now, they're, like I said, they're a top-notch group. They do their job and they're great. And I think it should be like dispatch for a day for someone. Or if any sergeants out there that are having any issues with your troopers, bring them on up. We'll show them how it's done.
yeah.
So
No, I think that's a great idea too. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to be honest, that's where I learned the ins and outs of our computer-aided dispatch. I
Yeah.
mean, was watching them do it. I was like, oh, I didn't know we could do that. I'm like, that's awesome. So then when I got out, it actually made their job a little easier because I was doing things that they would have had to do, but I was just pressing the right buttons finally rather than just saying it over the radio and asking them to do it. So, I think that's a great experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thanks
we
for
appreciate
having
you
me.
being here. We appreciate you sharing about dispatch, and hopefully some people have said, "Hey, I should think about that." So,
Yep.
thank you very much.
I didn't want to paint it like, oh my God, we deal with a bunch of bad stuff. We have fun too, right? We have good stuff. So
No, and I think
And
that's
it comes
what we're
with a
here
job.
for. We're
Yeah.
here to talk about the good and the bad
Yeah.
because there's going to be that in any job out there. So let's be real. Let's be honest. So, yeah. Well, thank you again.
thank you for having
Have a
me.
good one.
Sweet.
To all our viewers, if you're interested in a dispatch position or any other position with the Arizona Department of Public Safety, we would encourage you to visit recruitment.azdps.gov and join us. Come be a part of this organization and make Arizona a better place. Thanks.
See you later.